Jeff!
Damon!
Woo! So can you introduce yourself for us?
Yes, I can. Hello, everyone. I am Jeff. I am embedded systems engineer, among other things, working with Enertion. So I developed Blackbox Unity, and we're developing a lot of other cool new products soon to be announced. And I also do a lot of work just in general in the background, supporting firmware updates and etc. So it's a constant battle to get everyone's hardware working. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
So the first thing I always ask everybody, and if you were right here, I would totally run and jump and hug you again. But the first thing I ask everybody is, how did you get into the whole esk8 thing?
Well, initially I was going to buy a board, and then I was like, these things are too expensive. It's like every other person that decides to buy an electric skateboard.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, well, I could probably build my own board, because my background, I was, at the time, I think I was 3 years into my PhD for robotics. So
yeah,
I was like, well, I'm building things with small motors all the time, and this is just a thing with slightly larger motors. So we do more like this scale of robots in our lab. And I had already done a bunch of motor controller design, low-level stuff for fun on the side. And then I was like, I started looking to build my own board, and I was like, wait a minute, this in no way is going to be cheaper at all. Like,
it's not.
No, I think you get a better board, and you get a board that you can service yourself, which is awesome. But it is still expensive because people making individual components still need that markup so they can correctly support their customers, right?
Right.
So then I was like, the biggest thing for me was I couldn't believe the cost of the motor controllers. Because I was like, why are these so expensive? I was like, I'll just solder my own. So then I went and I looked up just the BOM, and I was like, okay, I understand why this motor controller is so expensive now. Like just to assemble your own is still like $80, and then you have to do a bunch of work placing tiny little components and stuff. So
right.
I was like, well, maybe I could make it cheaper. That was the first thing I was thinking, was to make something cheaper. So then I was looking, and I was like, well, the microcontroller that is used on the Vest is already, like, it's designed to drive two motors. That was like the hardware timers like have outputs for two different motors and a whole bunch of other stuff to support it. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll just spend a month and I'll just design my own motor controller, like a dual one. And, you know, because I'll have a lot of shared peripheral, it should be cheaper, or in theory, right? And then,
yeah.
And then in a year and a half later, when I finished,
a year and a half later, I'll just take a month and design my motor controller, and then a year and a half later.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe a year later, I ended up contacting Enertion, and I was like, hey, I made this dual motor controller that costs less to make. And then Jason was excited. I just emailed Jason cold from nowhere, and I guess he forwarded it to Charles, who's our other electrical guy, and he was like, oh yeah, this is a real thing. But then I got to working with Charles and he, you know, provided a lot of expertise from the Blackbox side of things, and the project really, that's when it really started to become what the Unity is now, because before it was just kind of a cheap, okay motor controller. And then once we started working together, Charles shared a bunch of advice with me on reliability, and he helped collaborate with me to just do a lot of testing, and we found so many problems, so many more problems. And yeah, and then that was kind of where it all started. And once I got to working with Charles and Jason, the three of us just get along super, super well. So it has been a ton of fun. Just developing new technology together has been crazy fun. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got into all of it, I guess, just by accident. I started a small side project that just took over my entire life.
Dude, that's such a mild understatement. Like, I feel like, and I think the community can back me up on this, that the Unity just kind of rocked the fucking world, as far as what we came to expect from motor controllers. Because I mean, we all remember 2015, 2016, 2015 we're all using fifth scale car ESCs, 2014, 2015. And then Vetter finally like released the VESC, and then there was, which happened a little bit before that, but nobody really jumped on it,
Yeah.
And then finally, Jason picked up the ball and freaking went to Macrofab or whoever he went to, and was like, "Hey, we're gonna shove these out. We're gonna make these VESCs because I'm tired of not having motor controllers, and I'm sure the world is tired of not having motor controllers,
Yeah.
And so, wow, they were just like, they kind of took over everything. And at the time, I was doing his Raptor 1 repairs, and so I kind of got to see how that all worked out. And at 10S they were fine, but I was going for 12S, and they just kind of cooked.
Yeah.
They just cooked them, and the community cooked them.
Yeah.
And so when the Flock boxes came out, that was a breath of fresh air. But then the Unity, holy shit, you just like swung in on a vine and kind of saved the whole fucking community from the dual motor controller thing, because I feel like a lot of people were just wanting a single controller that could take the heat, because all the duals before that, we were just blowing up one side of them.
Yeah, because there's the CAN bus, there's just more independent things to connect, so it adds complexity. And I mean, the Unity has been a learning process. We've had some speed bumps along the way, but I think it's really getting to like a stable point now, and we're about to ship. We have a lot of delays at the moment, but we're about to ship this week, which is going to be awesome. So everyone will be getting their orders, and we have plans in place to really finally get these things out on time, back to back, and just ship them, have them in stock. It's going to be great. So yeah, it's been a really important part of Enertion's business is our DIY motor controller sales, and so we're going to be making them a priority. So it's going to be exciting.
So I've been busting ass all day building batteries, and I neglected to post on the forum that we were going to have this interview. And usually I give them a day or two to like, hey, what are we going to ask this person? So that's my fault. But I think what everyone wants to know is, where's my Unity? So what? I mean, I know we got delays, and manufacturing always has delays. It's always like, I send my design in, and then they send something back, and it's like, oh shit, you forgot to this, and you forgot to that, and let's fix this, and oh fuck, we forgot to do this thing. It's just the way it works. But like, how close do you think we are to seeing them, if at all?
No, so they're just right now they're just sitting at our factory, and we have paid for the units, and it's just processing, and then once that happens, they just ship over to our distributor, and then they get shipped. So last I spoke with Jason, that was the status, so it should be going out.
Sweet.
We have, a lot of units right now about to ship, so it's gonna be cool. So something that we're doing in the future, which is really going to help with this whole fiasco, is we negotiated with our supplier to lower the quantity of batch size that we do at a given time, and the per unit costs slightly higher for us, but it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And that will allow us basically for it to be a little bit less capital intensive, where right now we're doing runs of 1,000 motor controllers or something. So it takes a lot of money that just ends up getting tied up, and it just gunks up all the works, because we're trying to, we're also producing Raptor 2, so stuff's going over there, and the business just, it complicates everything. And so we're going to do batch sizes down smaller, and that should let us basically just turn over very quickly and deliver the product to the customer. And also, as we do that, we can build up a backlog of stock, which should be helpful. So, and then we had a whole jig update thing this time that was last minute, that we just decided to get that done for just reliability and safety, so we can get the latest firmware shipped out to everyone quickly. So
I think everybody wants to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're like crack. They're like crack for the esk8 community. We need them.
Yeah. Well, we want to provide them, and we're gonna do a better job of just, so you can get it and then you receive it within a week or less. That's where we want to get to. So that's what we're focused on doing now.
Sweet.
Yeah, we're basically pivoting to really focus on the motor control development and get the business side of it worked out really well. We also have a bunch of premium board brands now, which are running the Unity, which is super exciting.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. There's a few of them.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I'm involved with at least 2 of them.
Yeah. They are it's so exciting to see that people are willing to choose the Unity as the motor controller for their really cool skateboard, and we get to be a part of that. And we're working now to kind of develop out some tools to support those people, which will be awesome. So it's kind of just like some production tools to make configuring every board and testing all the subsystems faster and easier. Something we're already doing with the Raptor 2. So
that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
So it'll be like a sort of a developer kit kind of thing for builders.
Yeah, essentially it'll be similar to the app, but instead of going through and customizing each of the setting, you just customize once right at the beginning. And then you run a test, and then it will also do error reporting if anything goes wrong with the board. For instance, it could tell you you can set up specifications I want my winding resistance to be between these 2 thresholds, and if it's outside of that, then chances are the motor is defective, and I should give this product to a customer, right? So you'll be able to go in and just set those thresholds up, and we'll help you decide what they should be, because not everyone has a perfect understanding of brushless motors. So we're happy to advise on that. So yeah, it should be pretty cool. I think it will be help up the reliability of the people that want to work with us on that. So that's cool.
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, all my builds use Unities. And when I can't get a hold of Unities, I'm using those tech controllers. But they're all right. But I'd really like to put Unity in every build, because they're just sick. They simplify the whole build process so much. They're the LVC, they're the power switch, they got support for the voltmeters. There's no CAN bus to deal with. Just out of the box, even without the dev tools you're talking about, they're dead easy to set up, and they just super simplify the inside of the box. And
so what we've been doing now in the background is we're working on every other part of your esk8 electronics to make it all kind of build out a full ecosystem to just make everything so simple and straightforward and reliable, and to get all the data out of your board so you can see exactly what's going on with your battery. You can fully customize and configure your remote. So look for those products coming from us soon. We're going to we'll announce the remote very shortly.
I heard rumors of a new remote.
Yeah, so there'll be a thread post up soon, but we're just getting some fancy renders done for fun before then launch, create some hype. But yeah,
you're gonna be able to get battery information on that remote, you think?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cool ways to display the information that you want to see, and it'll be configurable. Yeah, telemetry, some RGB for extra speed, and it's pretty cool. I'm excited, but I don't want to spoil too much. So keep an eye out.
Well,
anyway,
I'm looking forward to that shit.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it. And something cool that we're doing, which isn't 100% finalized yet, but the firmware is going to be fully open source, which is pretty cool. And we're also developing a reference design / developer board, so that you can, if you prefer, maybe our remote shape isn't perfect for you, you can develop out your own if you want. And actually, what's cool is it's going to be more than just like open source in the sense that like we'll just write out some firmware for our remote and just launch it. But we're actually talking to a few other people that are developing remotes in the community. And you know, until we finalize everything, I don't want to announce exactly who, but and we're going to be working with them to kind of develop a full back-end remote system that's just safe wireless connection, and we're going to have multiple people working to make that a reality. So it should be cool. Kind of how, you know, you can buy desks from multiple people. It will be the same way, but for your remote, which will be cool. And it'll be fully compatible with desks and unities. So it should be fun.
I think that's going to be pretty impressive with Enertion having the best motor controller on the market and possibly the best remote on the market. You know, because right now it's kind of like we got the best motor controller on the market and the worst remote on the market. So that's going to be quite the turnaround, I think.
Yeah, it's been an effort. It's a lot of work because there's so many different parts to it. You know, you have the mechanical side is, I think, super important. I think the reason that we're okay with just open sourcing the firmware and electronics is like that's the part that just needs to work 100% of the time, right? Like because it's so safety critical.
Yeah.
And so
everyone to be able to vet that, you know.
Yeah, everyone that's making a remote should be working together to make sure that that's the safest system because it's so important, right? Like if your remote goes out on you, you could fly into traffic and die. So there's no reason to be keeping secrets about it, right? Like you're jeopardizing someone's safety by being secretive about your development on that front, in my opinion. But what we think is really going to set our remote apart is there's a lot of really cool mechanical design and subsystems, and I worked a ton. I have like 1,000 revisions of 3D printed stuff to try and get good hand feel. I have a slightly bigger hand, so you know maybe small-handed people might not like as much. But
I have smaller hands. Maybe I could beta test it.
Yeah, you will receive a beta unit. Do not worry.
Nice.
I think we're thinking about maybe doing. We've been discussing doing kind of like an interesting, almost like we're trying to get out of the pre-order model because it's just so annoying to do.
It kind of is because people end up waiting a year to get their thing, and that's really nobody's fault, you know. That's manufacturing, and you know, that's just factories. But if you can get that good relationship, you know, like, and I think Enertion has spent a lot of time trying to find that good relationship. And I
mean, found now our electronics factory is amazing. They're really
awesome.
really guys over there. So
that's good to hear.
We've been super impressed. Even when they make mistakes, they are just like, that was our bad, and they go through and do the things necessary to fix that mistake, which is huge because everybody's going to mess up sometimes, right?
Yeah, at some point, yeah. It's just how you deal with it is really the important thing.
How you handle it, right? You got to take responsibility. You got to step up and say, yeah, there's an issue. We're addressing it. We're going to fix it. And you want to see that all the way through the supply chain of what you're doing, right? So
I know in the past that's something that Enertion has struggled with, finding a manufacturer that they can have a good relationship with and that is willing to own their mistakes and work with you and find the best way to solve the problem. You know?
Yeah, we don't have every supplier sorted out yet, but that's exactly what we're working towards. So the core of a business is relationships, really. So
it's really hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard. And every time I talk to Jason, and it's been a minute, but every time I talk to Jason, I kind of congratulate him. You know, I kind of tell him that I really appreciate the way he just kind of bulldozes through that shit and gets it resolved and figures out what needs to happen and makes it happen. You know, it's been hard. You know,
if I had to wake up every day with the problems that Jason faces down, I'd just be clinically depressed. Like, it is just a constant storm of bad news that happens just to make something a reality. It's crazy.
I can't imagine. And people give him flack, but I'm always like, you know, damn, the shit he must have to deal with.
I have a ton of respect for Jason. He's he's an amazingly positive person. I think sometimes in type it's hard that it doesn't come through correctly.
Yeah.
You can't hear like the intonation and stuff of his voice, but
yeah.
He's got a great sense of humor, and he just takes everything in stride. And it's been a real pleasure working with him, and like it's just been so much fun. The main thing that I like about Jason is that he's an awesome listener, actually. And so, like, when Charles and I are like, "Oh, this isn't safe, but we need to do," he's like, "Okay, well, that's what we're doing." Like, even if it means we have to tell all our customers some bad news or whatever else, he's just like, "Well, you guys are the engineers, so if that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do." And that's just so cool, because I've worked under people before that just think that they're always the smartest person in the room on every topic, and that
doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. When it comes to business stuff, I do not try to overrule Jason, because I have no idea what I'm doing. Marketing, I'm just like, I don't know. I'll just be nice and tell people the truth with it. But it's not like selling stuff. Sometimes that's hard in itself. I don't really understand how to do it.
I can't imagine having to be like the sales and the marketing and deal with all the manufacturing and deal with customers. I mean, gee, like I'm such like teeny scale compared to what's going on over there, like just tiny scale. I don't do a whole lot of customs, and most of what I do is work for, believe it or not, most of what I do is work for other skate companies. So
much work to be done. It's super important.
We somebody's got to build all these batteries, man. That's like most of the shit that I do now is building batteries. But to have to handle like designs and product and marketing and all that insanity, and then have to pick up the phone every day and hear, "Oh, we can't do this," or, "Oh, it's going to be another 3 months for some shit," and it's like I would die.
Yeah.
I would die.
The bad news is rough sometimes. I'm not always the best at, like when I woke up and I saw someone had like gotten hurt using their motor controller, it's like devastating to me. I don't know. It's like hard to work that day because I'm just so distracted and like caught up in the failure. I mean, it's inevitably going to happen. It's a dangerous product. Well, not a dangerous product, but it's like part of a dangerous system, right? Like it's like a motorcycle, riding it is not safe. You're standing up on something going 30 miles an hour.
That in itself is inherently dangerous. Even on 100% day, on its best day with zero flaws, you could still like wobble out. It's not like a very safe sport at all.
It really isn't, but it's just too fun to not do,
Yeah.
But it gets tough when you integrate like, electrical systems, and my goal is to have 100% of people's builds working 100% of the time. But we can't control other people's actions and what combinations they pick, and we can't test every possible reality. And I wish that I had the time and energy to do that. But if I did try to, we would have never released a motor controller because it's impossible. We would have been testing now. So
I can tell you this: by the time I got my beta 1, you guys had pretty much nailed it. Like y'all were telling me don't run it at 13S, but I was killing it at 12, 100% of the time. We ran the shit out of that. It's still running. It's still in this board right here.
Yeah, Charles is still running his beta unit in his board too. And I have one in mine. So they definitely, once they're dialed in and working in your build, they're perfect. I love them. Like it's just so much easier. When we were in Colorado a couple weeks back, I was helping some people out to configure their dual setups that weren't unities, and like plugging in each is just. I don't miss it. Too much. I don't mean to talk bad about anyone else's stuff, but it's just I don't like having 2 motor controllers to think about. It's just one too many,
Well, when you run 2 motor controllers, you also have to run a MOSFET switch, and to run, a separate wire bus from your switch into your fuel gauge, and it just adds a whole lot of complications because you got all those connectors and you're using up space that you don't. When I yanked those two Fox boxes and that E-switch out of my box and dropped that Unity in there was just all this extra room that I didn't know what to do with.
Yeah, you're like, I guess I'll put batteries in there.
Yeah, I'll just put batteries in there, and then, which is funny that you say that because when I got the first bio board in, build the first pack and ship it, they sent me a reference version to keep, and I had to add another Unity in because they only sent me one, and then I had to build a pack and put it together, and then we went back and forth on some truck angle issues and things like that, and then we finally got it nailed. But when I had it all together, 72 cells and 2 Unities on an Evo Falcon 40, it was just like wall to wall of electronic and battery. There was no space anywhere, no room to breathe, no nothing. And if I don't think you could have fit 4 Fox boxes and an E-switch on there. There was just too much stuff. Like it definitely would not have been that clean. And those new ones, can the most recent versions, can those run 14S?
I will neither confirm nor deny that they can run 14S. We don't advise it.
It's probably Gucci, right?
Yeah, 13 should work. It's just, the thing is, as you approach the absolute maximum ratings of electronic components, your failure rate inevitably goes up. So if it should work just fine, right? But there are cases where it could fail. So like I don't recommend going above 12S.
I can see, wearing that shirt and representing how you may not want to say that it can go over 12S.
Well, yeah. Like we have people running it and it's working fine for them, but
it's still like iffy a little bit.
Yeah, statistically speaking, it's probably a bad idea,
But at 12S, what's the max current people can expect out of the most recent models?
For the Unity?
Yeah.
You can push, if you're talking continuous ratings at 12S, are you talking battery current or motor current?
DC battery. Like what can I pull?
I think 80 amps for a couple minutes is fine. 60 endlessly. 100 to 120 peak is generally good. So yeah, and I mean, surge current. We've seen stuff up much higher than that.
Momentary. It's kind of a
momentary. Yeah, it can. The switch bets in theory can push like 300 amps or something. The main bottleneck would be the XT60. But honestly, the reason that we didn't size up the connector is because space is a premium in the esk8 build. And if you just do the math out on the amount of power that would be at 10 to 12S for like 60 amps, you would be like 0 to 60 in like 1 second. Or you'd have to be like 300 pounds driving up a wall continuous, So
correct. I'm 300 pounds and I only drive vertical.
Yeah,
completely vertical.
Use the Unity in your grapple gun or whatever.
Yeah, so it's the winch on the front of my RAV. That's what I use it for.
That's perfect. Yeah,
pull trees out of the dirt with it.
That's something I've been meaning to do with the Unities. You can wire a motor to be like 6 days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you can break them all out and then do just like one giant motor, like independently, so to speak, which would be pretty.
Would that require like new firmware to do that? Obviously, I guess. Yeah.
Technically, no, but I would write new firmware for it just because, the big thing with esk8 is we need like really good zero velocity performance, and the firmware wouldn't support that super well.
So are we talking about 6-phase motorcycle controllers? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. These are just the things that I lay awake at night thinking about doing.
let's just skip over e-bikes, okay? We're
Yeah.
talking like 6-inch tires. We're talking.
Yeah. No, these motors are monstrous, right? Because you'd be pushing the full, right? Like each motor, the Unity can push like 5 kilowatts or something. So that's a big motor.
Yeah.
It's a unicycle motor. So that's something that I want to figure out eventually. It's on the weekend projects list, you know.
That's a pretty cool idea. A 6-phase motor.
Yeah.
Dang.
Carl's not back and forth about it.
That's like a car. Use that for a car and shit.
Yeah. So you get a little bit lower torque ripple. But other than that, it's basically just 2 3-phase motors, like offset slightly. So it's not much different in terms of the control or anything. It's just basically like you have twice as many wires running into your motor. So.
Well, you need twice as many wires.
Yeah, exactly.
I want 11 wires.
12 wires. No, 6 wires. 6 wires.
I want 11 wires. Like, can you build
Why do
me?
you want 11?
Because 11.
It doesn't even. There's a lot of electrical theory that goes against your theory of 11 wires.
But 11 is better. That's what I heard. Well, that's pretty cool.
Multiples of 3s are good for windings. 4 if you're doing a stepper motor, I guess.
So officially 13S, 14S not recommended, but 13S should be fine.
Yeah.
14S probably a bad idea at this point.
Yeah, the thing is, right, like say you're running 14S and you actually manage to go to max speed, like say you got a super low kV motor so you could rev it up to max speed. 14S times 4.2, it puts you at like 58 point something volts, right?
You're using 8-volt components on those, right?
Yeah, there's the motor driver itself is 60 volts. So essentially like anytime if you were to start braking hard at full charge, you're like you can see a little bit of voltage rise on the pack because it has series resistance, and then you could probably go over the maximum rating of the motor driver, right? Temporarily. So that's why you wouldn't want to run 14S, I think.
What would that look like? Would that be a face streeting, you think?
Considering you'd be going pretty fast. Yeah.
Like how fast? Are we talking about Mo Biggs fast?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it just depends on what you're hearing, right? So, but you'd be going the maximum speed of your board, so it depends how you build your board.
Damn.
So that would be not ideal to get a power cut at those speeds, right? Which is probably what would happen. I think you would trigger an overvoltage fault before it blew up, hopefully. But yeah, you're really playing with that threshold, so not recommended. That's what I'll say.
Well, I'm fine at 12S, and it's funny you were talking about 60 amps earlier because I've never built a board over 60 amps. I actually limit the current in all of the motor controllers to 55. Like I don't go over that much, and you'd be like I think people would be just pleasantly surprised, the DIY builders, if they would quit maxing everything out and just run, something in the middle, some higher middle ground, because that's what we've been doing the whole time, and it saves components. It makes everything last a lot longer, and you still get like crazy speed and you still get crazy launch. So
the thing, they're like you're never like really going to. Like you're never sustaining your max throttle when you have those insane settings. You know what I mean? It just makes the board touchier.
Right.
And then basically like the motor controller though says, okay, I'm allowed to go to those crazy settings. So just like instantaneously it'll be hitting those and exactly pushing you up against closer to a region where the point of failure, right? Because like you're talking about the maximum it can do, which means more than that could potentially damage something if, the Unity should be completely fine. Like, I don't think you would damage the Unity from running a lot of current, but you can get stuff where you can get like erroneous faults to trigger and stuff because like giant spikes in current can cause EMI, and under certain circumstances where your battery wires aren't very direct or other things, unfortunate things can happen, right? Like if you made mistakes elsewhere, they will surface at the worst possible time with the highest motor concurrence bikes, right? So I definitely agree with you that yeah, if you're running 60 amps out of your battery, that is a lot of power, especially at 12S. That's a ton of power.
That is a ton of power. That's kind of the whole point of running higher voltage, is so you can run lower amps and everything kind of is more efficient and cooler, you know?
Yeah, it's like that's 60 amps is essentially 3 kilowatts of power. Like, it's
retarded. You're standing on 3 kilowatt board, you know? And then of course on the forums, you know, those animals, they're not settling for anything less than maximum everything, which is in one sense kind of retarded, and in another sense wildly amusing to watch, because they're just building these incredibly fast boards, and then they'll get back on there and they're like, hey, my thing blew up, but I was only running it like well beyond the thresholds of everything. So, and then it exploded. Who knew? It's kind of fun to watch, because I feel like everyone's watching. Everyone is watching us blow all of our shit up and report back. And it's not just us learning from it. The whole world is learning from it. I know you guys were paying really close attention when your beta testers were doing things like running motor detection on shorted motors deliberately, and sticking things in water and running them. And I know Jake and I went out in the rain just to see what would fucking happen, and sent it back. It failed. Sent it back to Charles Alex, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you just had a little bit of something on there. I'll send it back. It's fine." Which was kind of crazy. We tried to break that shit, you know, and I think a lot of people tried to break it. And
I mean, like there's been like some very loud reports of faults, and I take them very seriously. But the thing that people don't realize, like, is we have so many motor controllers out there, right? And the amount of people we have coming back to us with problems is like super low. We're doing very well in that department. Like, we're very happy with where the product's at. Unfortunately, like some things have gone wrong, but it's kind of inevitable when you just say, here's a piece of hardware, use it with any random combination of components, you know? It just unfortunately can happen, and you find those things as you go, and you fix them, and you pay attention, and you listen, and you help them out, and that's what we've been doing.
Statistically, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
I mean, when you throw 10,000 units out into the wild and 10 or 20 of them fail, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's
you know, and of course those are going to be the squeaky wheels.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, if I bought a motor controller and it didn't work for me, I'm going to be like, hey, this thing didn't work. What the heck?
Yeah.
But I think that people, you know, like, can read over the support thread and be like, oh my God, like all these people have had problems with their motor controller. The Unity isn't reliable.
Right.
It's just not true, right? Like, if you look at some of the alternatives and go, like, they aren't running a public support thread where you can, you know, discuss your issues and common problems you've been having and stuff. And that's part of the difference, right? It's like, we'll come in there and say, oh yeah, that is an issue that we've identified, and we're releasing a fix for it this month, you know, as quick as we can. So
that's something else, now that you mention it, that I've got mad respect for Enertion for. Jason started a community, right? He started this builders community, pulled everyone out of Endless Sphere, and now we've got this awesome builders community, and we're all involved in making these products better. And I think that is the coolest shit ever. You know, we all have feedback. We all buy these products, and we're all like, hey, this one thing happened. And then you guys pay attention to that. And that's how things get better. And that's one reason that I'm really excited about this new remote.
Yeah.
Because if you guys go full open source with that, and everyone's like in it and making it and helping improve it and contributing, it's going to be the best fucking remote ever.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. And the thing is, it isn't just our remote. That's what I'm trying to prove, that other people are going to be developing remotes using the same like firmware stack, so to speak. So we're gonna get something that's just so reliable that it won't make sense to use anything else. And you don't have to buy our remote. You can buy, say you don't like our remote is going to be a thumbstick remote, right? I can tell you that. If you like trigger remotes, there might be a different option for you, right? And we're fine with that. Like we're developing what we think is the best remote, but everybody has opinions. And the thing is, the more of a standard there is, that's good for us. It's right, because people have choices, which just all it does is it opens the market up for everybody, right? So like, think about your computer. This is something Jason always talks about, right? Is like, you can buy different RAM from different vendors, but them all agreeing to a compatible standard is good for everybody that's selling RAM, right? Because there's no lock-in. As a consumer, you get benefits, and as someone who's selling, you get benefits because you already know how to make the RAM stick correctly, right? And then you can figure out your own twist on why your stick is better or whatever. And I mean, that has way less design freedom than a remote does, right? So yeah, it's even more interesting there, I think, to define a standard interface. Right now we have PPM, right? That's kind of the standard interface, but the problem is PPM is ambiguous, right? It's only sending one number all the time, right? So say your remote fails, there isn't an agreed upon thing to do when the remote fails or disconnects or whatever else, right? What do you do with the PPM value? Do you set it to 0 so your boat's coasting? What if you're riding down a big hill, right? Maybe you did want it to break. How do you detect if the remote has disconnected when you only have one number? Right. Like, you can't know. You don't have status information there. So it's inherently risky, right? And so some remotes, they set the thing to full break because they come from the RC car community where it's not going to launch you into the street when it cuts out, right? That's good. You want your RC car to just come to a stop. But that's bad on a skateboard, right?
Yeah. It's a very gentle stop. In which case, there might not be enough room for a gentle stop. So there's really no good answer for that unless you have more information.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what we're aiming to do, is get more information there, also getting data out of the remote so you can, look at your data while you're writing. You can go, oh, like, how efficient am I right now? How fast am I going with a quick glance, right? Or, how much of my battery is left? Things like that. They're just obvious things that you want to see and you want in your hand, or you don't want to have to take out your phone. You don't want to have to do any of that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think, Trampas releasing their remote, and I think that is an interesting concept, but I have some concerns, like, about the module that they've selected and the way that they're going about it. Like, I don't think that it is a good idea to take your receiver and split priority between Bluetooth and the protocol that's like controlling your board, right? That's mission critical. That's the interesting.
Throttle control is 100% priority all the time. It should be.
Yeah.
And it should be whatever protocol is absolute bulletproof. That should be the throttle protocol, and telemetry should be next to that somewhere with way less priority.
Exactly. So the problem there is there's only one radio, right? So you can only do one thing with the radio at a time on the modules. Some other radios are different, but this radio specifically, you can either be sending a message, you can be receiving a message, and only one type of message, right? So you can be sending out the data to the remote, you can be receiving data from the remote, you can be sending out Bluetooth to a phone, receiving Bluetooth from a phone. So you're just splitting attention. And that's not to say that they haven't figured out a bulletproof solution. I just think it's asking for problems if you don't do it perfectly, which in my mind isn't ideal. And the other thing is that they've announced that they're using the ESB protocol, which is more of a narrow band. It's like a narrow band communication, which means then you need to write out this whole frequency hopping implementation to compensate for interference, right? Like if someone nearby is sending a text and it happens to be in the same frequency band that you're currently controlling your board with, now you need to figure out a smart way to like instantly switch frequencies and stuff. And it's just kind of an old technology, ESB, the shock burst protocol is. So I thought about, like, oh, okay, they're doing that, like maybe we should do that. But I just don't think it's the right avenue, in my opinion. But, they might release their remote and it's perfect. I don't know.
So how are you guys handling that? 2 radios?
No, so we're going to have the Bluetooth module in Unity. That's just for phone.
Yeah.
And then we're using a separate module, which is very new, from Semtech. It's the 2.4 gigahertz, so it'll be the same in Europe and US. And it will be part of the open source firmware. We'll have all the drivers and stuff for running it and stuff. So it is, it's exactly what you want out of a remote. What it is it's a high reliability, low bandwidth connection. Because when we're talking low bandwidth, right, you can stream movies over Bluetooth, right? Like that's what it's built for. Like sending music. And if your stereo drops out when you're listening to music, it's not critical. It doesn't matter. That's why you don't run a Bluetooth remote, which is not what they're doing. But anyway. So instead, this is like a low bandwidth, and it's ultra wideband. And so what that means is like it spreads the spectrum over like 300 kilohertz of radio bandwidth, and that just increases the link budget, which is basically just a term for like you could think of it as the range of the remote. So the range is super far. Like I have been testing our remotes and I can walk like 2 blocks down and still be getting signal.
Like the old 900 megahertz phones?
Yeah, which sounds stupid, right? I don't need to operate my board from 2 blocks away. Why do I?
Well, if you can operate it 2 blocks away, it's probably not going to drop out from 3 feet away.
So that's exactly how interference works, is right? Like everything that is interfering with the signal chips away at that range.
Right.
And so when you have that huge range, it means that when you're close, like it's very difficult for the signal to get disrupted. Yeah. So
typically, most esk8 riders, unless they're as tall as you, they've only got about 2.5 feet between them, the remote and the receiver. Yeah. And hopefully there's not a bunch of carbon fiber between it.
Yeah, you'll be able to get away with a lot of funny business. Mounting it in your carbon fiber enclosure next to some metal, whatever else. If you make some mistakes there,
wrapped in foil that's touching your ground, it should still be fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, like probably that would be the exception to the rule there. It can't be in a perfect Faraday cage, obviously, but you will be able to get away with some stuff where you're not optimally placing the receiver, because let's be honest, it's difficult. There's a lot of metal and carbon fiber in boards.
There is. That's one of the main reasons we've stuck with maple decks and fiberglass boxes, is because we want to minimize 100% the interference. And most of the time, the antennas, the receiver whips, they go right up against the wood, so you don't want anything except the deck and your feet between you and the signal.
Yeah, that's definitely
what we've learned with all of the terrible remotes we've had so far.
Yeah. The idea is just to get a remote where, you can be in a city with tons and tons of interference, poorly mounted enclosure with like not optimal anything, and you still don't want that connection to drop, right? Like users inevitably are going to do it. So you may as well design the product for that, because it is that important, right? Just because that person doesn't have the best knowledge of optimizing an RF link in their remote doesn't mean that they should be put in a dangerous situation. You know, that's kind
right.
That's kind of where we're at there. So, yeah, I think it's exciting. We're also talking, we had a meeting this morning with some of the other guys doing the remote development with me. We're just getting started now on a lot of like digging into the harder problems. And, I have like my prototype running, but it's very basic stuff.
Yeah.
And so, one of the guys we were talking with brought up like encryption. And I was like, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, right? But that's the difference, right? Is like when you're together, working together, like you have different expertises. And so, all it takes is his effort on the side to figure out the encryption part. And then all of a sudden now everyone has encrypted skateboards and we're safe from some maniacal lunatic trying to interfere with our remotes or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be incredibly helpful not to have just a plain old analog signal that can be hijacked from 200 yards away with somebody with an amplifier. Like,
yeah,
that would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's and you are
so
nice.
Yeah, but it's cool. That's what's so exciting about collaborating. I think it's not necessarily like I think that I would have just done it fully myself because it's honestly easier in a lot of ways working with people's stuff because every time there's an important decision to be made, you now need to consult other individuals. How's Florida? What's hot?
Florida is fucking insane. Florida is right now. I wish I would almost trade the intense solar energy of Colorado for the humidity here. Oh my! Because when we went there, and that's what's funny. Florida is like the sunshine state, except that when I went to Colorado, there was a hell of a lot more sunshine.
Yeah, it was intense.
You walk out of your house, you get burned, and you don't sweat. Well, you do, but it's just gone. Like you just walk out and you're burned and dehydrated immediately, like within 5 minutes.
Let's talk about some other people's stuff. What do you think about the new? What do you think about the new Nazara as just announced? Right, that's crazy.
Oh damn! I believe I got to ride one of those.
Yeah.
I tore up a dirt track with it, and it was kind of amazing.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with what Lacroix has been doing recently. Those boards are super stable, like at high speed.
Yeah, it's like skating on a sofa or something. It's just super comfortable.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's almost. I can see where a lot of traditional skaters would complain a lot. In fact, I see a lot of people complaining on Facebook and in the various groups.
They don't get it.
Like, hey, pneumatics are cheating, and I don't understand. Like everyone coming into electric skateboarding now just wants tires, and they don't even know what it's like, and that totally detaches you from the urethane. But what they haven't done is try to do like 40, 50 miles an hour on a Grand Prix style go-kart track. You can't do that.
Yeah.
On urethane, you're gonna slide out and wreck.
The thing is, exactly. You're experiencing comfort like in the zones that were previously uncomfortable for a regular skateboard. What that means is now you can just get uncomfortable in these crazier conditions, right? Like, it's pretty cool. I think, I have like a mountain board build going now, just because it's totally different. It's a whole different thing, honestly. Like, it's super fun. But I love it. I think the way they're going with their just super high end, like crazy build, it's kind of interesting strategy.
Yeah, those trucks are wild.
Yeah, they're insane.
They're like this wide.
Yeah, and the machining, they're like all hollow in the middle. They're beautiful.
How do you even? Those things must have been fucking expensive to make,
Yeah.
That thing, it rides like a Cadillac, and you can't even tell if you're on road or off road. I took that on the asphalt track at IMI Motorsports, and it was glued, like it was on rails. And cornering, probably almost the fastest I've ever ridden, because the fastest I've ever ridden on a board was on Jamie's Red Ember, actually, with the psychotillers. And that one, I was just whipping around the corners like mad. But I had a very similar experience on the Lacroix, and it didn't mind taking me very fast, and I didn't ever feel like I was gonna slip off or sketch out at all.
Yeah.
And when on the second day, when Ernesto showed up and he had all the boards in the back, and Johnny's board was in the back, I just grabbed it out of his car. I was like, give me that, I'm riding that right now. Where's Johnny? I want the remote. And so I just grabbed it, and I took it on the dirt track immediately. And that thing, it was almost like I was back on asphalt, but with crazy hills and jump spots and ripples and pump sections, and the burns were nuts. It just went right up and right down and just launched right up the hill. Like I was kind of catching air on the thing. It was nuts. I had somebody told me that they thought it was kind of slow, but I found out later that they were close to 300 pounds, so I kind of get it. But
they were probably, one of them was actually riding with a really high gear ratio. It was like geared for top speed, not.
Yeah. I think is the one that I was riding. But since I'm only 150, it didn't matter.
Yeah, I noticed it a bit when we were doing the like full hill climb thing. I rode up an Azara in one of those, and then I was riding the one that was geared low, and it was just insanely just like punch you up in no time. And then I hopped on the other one, and only because I had just been riding this insane torque monster, I was like, oh yeah, it's missing a little bit of that like low end, just like punch, but it didn't matter. It was still so fun.
It really didn't matter.
Yeah, I think they've definitely got a compelling product there. And everyone's trying to pit Kaly, and they're like, do I get a Kaly or a Lacroix? And it's just like, get both. Be rich.
Let's pit Hummer against Land Rover. Those are like two different things.
They're just different products completely. Yeah. Like even the riding style is different. Like I just don't think it's like, you don't know enough about what you're buying if you think that like those two options should be based on just like some little spec or something. Because
they're not even in the same category.
Yeah, like they both are like boards with inflated wheels and big batteries, yes, but they just ride completely different, and both are insanely fun. So I don't have a difficult choice if I had enough money to buy either of them. I'll say that.
I had an absolute blast on that thing. And then I went straight from the Lacroix to the Kaly because Ernesto was like, "Here, ride my board right now," on the dirt. And so I took that shit off. Oh my God. Those kite boards, man, holy crap. And his new decks are freaking amazing. Your feet just don't care.
With the little flanges.
Yeah, I love the wings. I love the wings on those things. Because your feet just lock right in, and you can just totally just whip the ass end around, throw dirt tails 4 or 5 feet high. It's crazy.
Oh, man. Yeah, they're so fun. So much fun. I was riding the Kaly board, and I was like, oh, I'm about to spend $3,000 on skateboard.
I know.
Out of it,
Yeah, I was really tempted to buy one with no battery. I have to buy a unicycle now.
Yeah.
Because Tashawn's taking the 9-bot back.
Oh no.
And I'm gonna be sans unicycle.
Yeah, I've never taken the time to learn it. It looks fun though. I did some of those self-balancing like robots in my undergrad. I did a little bit of research on that just for fun. And I don't think I can convince myself to go any real speed on a unicycle because I know that what they're running and I'm just too sketched out.
Too busy thinking about the meat and the sausage kind of situation.
Yeah. Like you don't want to go to the sausage factory and watch the cows,
I used to work in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
Years ago, I used to work at like Perkins and Cracker Barrel, and I'm still like, do I want to eat there?
Yeah.
Maybe if I'm hungry enough.
Yeah, it's just you don't want to see too far under the hood, right? Like if you start looking at airplane specs and you're like, what is the factor of safety on my airplane wings just snapping off of the plane? And it's like,
right.
they run pretty close to the limit there. It's not fun to look at when you're flying, right? So, yeah, the control systems and stuff they're really interesting, really cool, but they freak me out. I don't think I trust
They are freaky. They are freaky. And what's even freakier is like the level of attention that has gone into the behavior of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Segway is the only model I have a whole lot of experience with, or the only make that I have a whole lot of experience with, 9bots. But I've ridden Gotways and King Songs, and something that they all have in common is this weird psychic ability to understand what you are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how, as a programmer, I don't know how they do that, because I mean, I'm just a web developer, but
yeah,
like coming from a robotics standpoint and you touching on some of that self-balancing while accelerating, while braking, while still self-balancing, like that's like sorcery to me.
It's actually not so hard to do. Like the intuitiveness comes from the fact that like you are always interacting with systems like this, right? Like walking. What are you doing? You are what we call that type of Segway is a mobile inverted pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
So you already are an inverted pendulum, right? Like you're a standing stick. When you walk, you lean forward, and if you say you're drunk, right, and you lean too far forward, you have to speed up, and then sometimes you overcompensate and you have to walk back a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're getting real loose and wobbly, and it's the same way. So what you do with the control system is just the exact same thing. There's just a very simple way to figure out the dynamic system that you're working with, and then you just do the exact same thing you would be doing with your feet, but you do it with a wheel instead, which is just to like compensate the direction and have a little bit of memory effect. It's beautifully simple, really. It's just that there are nuances there. The good thing is, right, is that since we are inverted pendulums already, like our brain understands like how to work with that system once you spend a little bit of time learning how it's going to respond to your foot angle and stuff, right? So I think that's one of the reasons it feels so natural, is that it's a control system that's built into your brain already, just to balance when you run and walk and fall over and whatever. It's
funny that you say that and explain it that way, because that's kind of how I felt once I finally got used to it. Because I think the reason it took me so long to learn, and I say so long, but it took me 3 weeks to be able to stay on it and ride it. And that might not seem like a long time for a lot of people, but every time I watch somebody else learn how to ride a unicycle, it's like, oh, I only learned it in a day. Or it only took me like 2 days to figure that shit out, I'm the kind of person that will argue with my body.
Yeah.
Constantly, because my brain just won't let go. And this is the funny thing about it, because I had to distract myself in order to finally get the hang of it. I had to turn up like some really loud, crazy music on the unicycle while I was practicing, in order to just distract myself just enough to let my body do what it knew it needed to do. Because I think, like you said, the software is waiting for me to react naturally, and there's nothing natural about standing on one wheel.
Yeah.
So it's like a total mind fuck.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to just overthinking everything. Like I grew up doing a lot of different extreme sports, and it's just like turning your brain off is pretty important. If you used to do like wakeboarding, right? And so you're like flying at the wake at 1,000,000 miles an hour and trying to throw a flip or something. And it's just like, if you think too hard before you do it, you're definitely going to eat it. Like, Like, it's important to think just a tiny bit, but only about what you need to, not like, what's going to happen if I don't do this?
Right.
And, but yeah, I think that I agree. I would take a long time to learn a unicycle because I just wouldn't trust it. I don't. God, it scares me. I see people zipping along at like 40 miles an hour on those things. I'm like, what are you doing? Get off! Stop immediately.
Yeah. I keep thinking about that guy who was on. I forget what model it was on, but he was doing 30 like down the side of a road, like down an overpass or something, and just lost it. And it was just like ragdoll. I thought for sure the dude was dead, but he just kind of got up and he was like,
For me, it's just like, I make electrical systems. Electrical systems sometimes, for no reason, just break. And what happens, like, if you're on a skateboard, there are bad situations, right? But at least the system is inherently somewhat stable. So, like, if you have your balance, you'll just, ride it out, hopefully.
Probably half the time when it jerks, you can still catch it.
Yeah.
Stay on.
Especially if you've been skating your whole life, you can figure it out, right? But what do you I can't even imagine what happens on a unicycle. Like, you just bam, because it's just immediately not giving you that restoring force to go back vertical. So if you're going fast and that thing just turns off.
Yeah, you're done.
That's it, right? There's no maybe I would love to see someone recover that. That would be insane to me.
I mean, you would have to be like a cat. You'd have to jump off of it, take 2 or 3 steps, and roll like a pro. Like, yeah, and that's not what happens. That's not, dude. Probably the last group ride I had here, like, meet up at my house where 15 people show up and we just kind of kill the neighborhood and drink a lot of beer. The last time we did that, I bailed so hard on that 9x, like right in front of everybody.
Oh no!
And I had never really wrecked it. I had always found a way to come out of it. I always wasn't going quite that fast. And what happened was, right around the street, one of our streets formed one of those overnight sinkholes, like just a dip in the asphalt. It was just the size of the wheel, and it wasn't even there the day before. Caught the wheel, paddles went like this, and you just go like there's no. You try to roll real quick, but it doesn't happen. Like basically face into the dirt or the street, really. And of course, my dumb ass was riding barefoot and banged up my fucking ankle and shit. Yeah, it was all kind of stupid. But I think the most fun I've ever had on that unicycle was on that dirt track at IMI. There were 4 of us riding at night before they even fixed the ruts.
Wow.
And I was like trying to keep up with them, but man, these people around here are nuts. They just all fast all the time.
Yeah, that kid was scaring the hell out of me. I don't know who he was, but
Mike Marin?
Yeah, the one riding backwards all the time. So.
Oh yeah, that was well, yeah, they're all way better than me at that shit.
He's got like his selfie stick out, like riding backwards at 20 miles an hour on the track.
On the racetrack, that was cool. Yeah. Yeah. He was, because I have video of him on my phone. I was chasing him with my phone the whole time he was riding backwards. We went all the way around that track and he was backwards. It's like, isn't that like kind of a mind fuck? And he was like, yeah, but get used to it.
Get used to it.
Get used to falling backwards at 30 miles an hour constantly. Insanity.
I don't like that.
Yeah, let's stick to boards.